Hey folks, every summer it's hard to decide what kind of vacation do you want to take. Do you want a relaxing natural getaway or do you want a new cultural artistic experience? Luckily this summer you don't have to choose. The Williamstown Theater Festival runs July 17th to August 3rd among the beautiful Berkshire Mountains in northwestern Massachusetts. It brings over 130 artists to the stage for nearly 100 performances. Discounted hotel rooms are available now. Go to WTFestival.org and immerse yourself in theater this summer. That's WTFestival.org. Today on CityCast DC, we're talking about the prospect for a fourth term for Muriel Bowser. We're talking about a poll of where the public stands on the RFK Stadium site, and also some news about the other RFK, Jr. He took an odd dip in Rock Creek this week. Ugh. And today, our fourth topic is by our sponsor, Paint Care. And if you're looking to tackle your spring cleaning, we've gotcha. I'm here with the 51st Martin Austermuhle and my CityCast colleague, Julia Caron. Today is Friday, May 16th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC's talking about. Hey, Martin.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. Hey, Julia.
Hey, Mike.
So, a friend of CityCast, Alex Coma of WAMU, reported this week that according to his sources, it sure looks like Muriel Bowser, who served 3 terms, is running again for a 4th. It looks to me like she's in pretty strong position. Usually 3rd terms really stink, but she's coming off some wins and her polling's pretty good. And I think she's getting some credit for sort of parrying this incredible moment of danger to the city's autonomy from the Trump administration and to the city's budget from Congress, from DOJ, from economic calamity, et cetera. That said, 3 terms is an awful long time. The publics do tend to get antsy. What are you hearing, Martin?
I mean, same sort of thing, but I think that I'll start from the kind of where you ended. It's not so much, is she going to run for 4th term? It's who wants to be mayor now? I mean, you just imagine you run in 2026, you get elected, and then you're dealing with the tail end of a second Trump administration, and potentially, depending on how the midterm elections go, it could still be a Republican Congress. I don't know that anybody wants to be in that position necessarily, and you could be dealing with, again, the economic calamity you just described that has been caused by this part of the Trump administration. So it's not as attractive as it was the last time there was a contested mayoral race back in 2022 when the economy was great, the budgets were flush, things were going pretty well for the city, and it seemed like the argument at the time was, would a progressive be able to take over and kind of fight for kind of the parts of DC that have been left behind? I just don't think that narrative works anymore and doesn't work in this political context. So is anybody going to take up the fight? I have no clue.
Well, according to Alex's reporting, Bowser's folks assume that Robert White, who was a progressive member of the council, ran last time, did better than people thought he would do, is going to be a candidate against her. Based on what my own conversations with people in that world, I think they would relish that prospect. I think they view him as a lightweight and an empty suit. Not that they would say that on the record, but I feel like that's the vibe in there. Again, those famous last words. So when you dismiss a candidate, you often tend to underestimate them. But that is their take. And I think the progressive bloc in the council has not had a successful couple of years. They were blamed for the spike in crime and for kind of poo-pooing people's concerns about that. And one of the things that has jumped out at me, including from Robert White, is there's been very little beating up on the mayor about these sort of kowtows she's been doing to the Trump administration. The just demolishing of Black Lives Matter Plaza, when the cops were looking at Tesla graffitiers as hate crime. These are things that, I expect a lot of them would do the exact same thing in Bowser's shoes, because the way she's thinking is like, let's just not fight on the symbolic stuff and, hold our fire to be able to keep people on healthcare and stuff. But so they might do the same thing in her shoes, but they're not in her shoes, which means that they are free to bemoan this as a terrible sellout. And yet they really haven't, which I think is a sign of the sort of weakening of that bloc.
Right. The point that I was going to make is like, all right, so say Robert White runs, becomes mayor, maybe it's someone else, and you're more lefty, more liberal, more progressive. You can say, yes, I want to do all of these things, but like when push comes to shove, like what are you going to do if the Trump administration is like, you know what, home rule, don't want it anymore, we're done.
I think if you're progressive, you probably have to be just as worried about what the bond market does, or there ain't the money to do that because huge numbers of our citizens are unemployed that didn't used to be unemployed.
Right, and that's kind of where I come down on. I think Robert White, you look at how he ran in 2022. He ran from the left. He ran as one of these progressives. He said, we need to put a lot more money into affordable housing. We need to create thousands upon thousands of government jobs to employ people. He did relatively well, but that was the context then. That's when the city was doing well. That's when the city wasn't having the budgetary issues that it's having right now. Fast forward to next year, I mean, the budget that the council is going to get within a week and a half is going to be hard. It's going to be brutal. It could get more brutal as the summer goes on. So that money just isn't there anymore to make these big progressive promises, really. So I think the fear of Trump is real, but I think the fear is more real of, well, I'm going to be stuck running a city that is in a very different position. I'm going to have a lot less flexibility to make these big promises to people and actually deliver on them.
Yeah, I think one of the other weird side effects of DC's strange constitutional situation with the lack of complete self-government is it does create kind of excuses, right? Like, we're broke, we can't afford this. Well, it's not our fault. If only we could do a commuter tax, if only we could do whatever. And sometimes those excuses are true, but they are still excuses. And it has made it historically kind of easy to like run against the status quo, grumble about the status quo. I think, Martin, though, you're right. Like, once you're in the job, like, you're the mayor and people are annoyed. They're pissed about crime, or they're pissed about they're pissed about homelessness. I guess one of the side effects of people losing a lot of jobs is that probably reduces the housing affordability crisis because there'll be fewer people, wanting. But either way, it doesn't seem like a particularly fun time to be in a municipal leadership role.
I will say one thing that is complicating this, and we talked to Ike Allen about this, is the whole Eleanor Holmes Norton of it all. Like, if she runs again, does she actually have a challenger? Or if she doesn't, would all the people who would be mayoral candidates, Bowser included, by the way, step up and say, you know what? I've done my 3 terms. I've kind of had it. I can't really go up in any other public office. This is as up as I'm going to get.
Yeah, this is the thing on DC politics. There's nowhere to go. So we have this non-voting congressional delegate, which to a lot of people, in a particular time when the Democrats are in the minority, would look like a pretty, sucky job, right? You don't get a vote, and you're in the minority in a branch of Congress where the minority really just has no fun at all. But like you say, there's not a whole lot of other options. The dynamic with Norton is, I think a lot of almost everybody, I think, sees her as a somewhat diminished figure. She's had mobility issues. She's seems in debates less nimble and so on. But nobody, because she is a appropriately revered figure, nobody wants to be seen as the one putting the knife in. They all want someone else to put the knife in. And I do think Alex's point that, well, this creates another, if we've got a case of a bunch of ambitious politicians looking at the election and thinking, well, how can I be in a better place? This is sort of another avenue for those ambitions, but it's a pretty complicated one too.
No, absolutely. But I think the knife was kind of put in, and it was kind of put in by the mayor herself. I mean, Ike Allen's article in Washingtonian was fantastic in that he got that quote from Beverly Perry, who's, longtime senior advisor to Bowser, like very not high profile, very low profile, but high influence in the administration. And she has that one glorious quote where she just like says, yeah, it seems like Eleanor's, her health isn't doing too well. She's a little bit slower. I mean, she said exactly what everybody was thinking, but she said it as Beverly Perry. And then she prefaced it by, well, I'm speaking in my private capacity. It's not a thing that happens. You can't be a senior advisor of the mayor and say something about the existing DC delegate in your private capacity. You can talk about whether you like apple pie in your private capacity, but not politics. So I think they were sending that message that the mayor is kind of like, nudge, nudge. If not me, find someone else. Like, if you want to anoint your successor, do that quickly.
If you've never visited the Folger Shakespeare Theater, now is the time. It's showing the Shakespearean classic Twelfth Night, but with a groundbreaking modern twist that brings pure joy. This is not the Shakespeare that you fell asleep reading in 10th grade. It is a contemporary, sexy production of Shakespeare's great comedy. Sure, there's loss, love, and identity, but there's also a sense of discovery, lavish costumes, and great modern music. The director used the term elegant kink while describing it to me, so you already know you're in for a ride. Think She's the Man meets RuPaul's Drag Race. Performances start on May 13th and run through June 22nd, and tickets are going fast. Don't wait. Go to folger.edu/12th night to purchase tickets. That's folger.edu/1, 2, night.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
We did an episode on the grim feelings of the future on the part of people in Washington, a number of people thinking about leaving, relocating entirely from the region, et cetera. Other recent poll news from the Post involves RFK. And this probably won't surprise a lot of people, but most people seem to want the Commanders back in town. They want to see a world-class stadium on the grounds of what is now the former RFK Stadium. There's a lot of people against the stadium, too. In politics, people with sort of an idea that, hey, there's housing scarcity in this city. Why would we turn over a prime bunch of real estate to football fans and tailgaters and so on when we could actually be building a neighborhood on that real estate? And other people saying we shouldn't be giving money to billionaires. How do you think people who have those opinions ought to defer to the general public, or is this a mood where there's some persuading going on? Like the question of how much weight the public's opinion ought to have and whether that will sway the council, where the council chairman Mendelson says the votes aren't there. It's sort of an open question. I'm not sure. Like, Martin, you've watched this stuff for a long time. How do you see the public's own opinion affecting the legislation?
I mean, that poll with nothing, if not a complete victory for the Commanders and for Bowser's proposed stadium deal. I mean, 55% of Washingtonians, according to the Post, seem perfectly okay with spending roughly $1 billion in public money to build a stadium here. That's a win, obviously. Now, I think that public opinion will probably soften a little bit as details start leaking out. Because again, this is just the initial cost. The actual details of this deal are going to become much more clear in the next 2 weeks when Bowser releases her budget. And you start getting a sense of, okay, we're putting this much public money into helping build the stadium. That means that we're taking this much public money out of doing other things. It could be building a new rec center. It could be modernizing a school. You can't have both at the same time. It's just not possible with the capital budget the way it is. I think that could shift a little bit of public opinion, especially if someone says, well, I like the idea of the Commanders, but not at the expense of my local school. But I still think it's mostly not so much a done deal. I think there's a general love for the Commanders. There's not much at RFK to begin with, so they see it as, well, there's an old falling down stadium. Why don't we just put a new stadium there instead? And I think people are buying into the idea that given the way the city's economy is going, something transformative at the RFK site is worth investing in. So I think, again, nothing is done until everything is finished up, and that won't happen until the fall. I think we have to be clear about that, like the final deal probably won't be done until the fall. But I would say right now the odds are it'll happen.
Support for the stadium is strongest in Ward 7 and 8, historically the poorest wards, the wards with the largest African-American percentage of the population, and is weakest in Wards 3 and 4, like leafy upper northwest. And there's an irony there because a lot of the opposition to the stadium involves social justice issues, involves the cost of housing, involves whether this money ought to be spent on things that help regular people rather than on underwriting the stadium. But that doesn't particularly surprise me because I think the notion of like turn that into a fancy new neighborhood, a lot of people would see that as like, oh, good, more gentrification, even if some percentage of the housing is set off as affordable. So, it's a complicated thing. I just think, look, like an even larger percentage of the public supports ending the tipped minimum wage. And yet people in the Bowser administration, and I suspect it'll wind up with like the council, don't seem to have a problem with going against that piece of public opinion because the public, they think, is wrong. And maybe the public is wrong,
It was interesting. I went to 2 community meetings this week about the RFK deal. There was one in Ward 7 and one in Ward 5. The Ward 7 one, again, and the stadium would be in Ward 7. There was a mix of opinions as expected. There was the sorts of people who kind of had the social justice-y arguments of, listen, we shouldn't be giving $1 billion to billionaires. It doesn't make sense. But then there was other people, and these are Black residents, who came up and said, other parts of the city have gotten their big investments, their big marquee projects. Ward 6 had Nats Park. Like, this is our time to get what's ours, essentially. I mean, it was one guy who stood up and said it, and it seemed like that was a popular argument. It was kind of a sense of, it's not just a stadium. I mean, there's the symbol of that, there is that, but it's also the promise right now that it would build things around it that would be Ward 7. And it's weird. It's like you're drawing these artificial lines. I mean, it's still part of the entire city. It's not like all the benefits accrue to Ward 7, but the symbolism is important that finally this one part of town that feels left behind is getting something that they see everyone else in the city already having.
I was going to say, that was the argument that Nina Albert made, like, in person. Like, she was asked about the fact that this is going to cost roughly $1 billion, we think, for now. And maybe that cost goes up, maybe it goes down. We don't know yet until the thing actually happens. But basically, like, she was asked about what it would do to solve inequalities in the city. And she said that the activity and investment in an anchor on the eastern side of the city of the district would make a huge difference in being able to attract all the amenities that they've wanted. Like, in terms of seeing it as a win, that's basically her answer, right?
I gotta say, like, I don't want to get into like a long geography conversation, but like that spot, right? It's right along the river at the far east end of East Capitol Street, edge of the hill. Like the eastern parts of DC have been shrinking, which means that the boundaries of those wards has been sort of gradually expanded. Ward 8 expanded all the way through the Navy Yard, and I think the stadium's in Ward 8 now. But that doesn't change life in Ward 8, because their geographic lines got expanded to include the stadium. And I think it's not like the stadium project is in the like heart of east of the river neighborhoods. It is not, in fact, east of the river at all. So I wonder if like people are applying to this. People are talking this sort of non-existent ward patriotism that I don't think actually most regular people feel one way or the other. People feel loyalty around their neighborhood, their part of town, but like this abstract cartographic creation of wards, I'm not sure if people feel that same thing.
You're exactly right. That line across the river, Ward 7 stretched over west of the river over the last 2 redistricting cycles. I mean, and historically, way back in the day, it was also, and then it went east of the river. So this line just arbitrarily moves. But you're right. I mean, the river ends up still being the geographic separator. Just like Nats Park is in Ward 8, but it's on the northern side of the river. The geographic separation of the river is still the thing that does it. So I agree with it's kind of random.
But Martin, I'm curious, like, what were the meetings like? First of all, who convenes the meetings? Who comes? Is it representatives of the team, the administration? How are the opponents of this project representing themselves?
So it was organized by the 2 respective council members, Wendell Felder from Ward 7, he did the first one, and then Zachary Parker from Ward 5, he did the second one. It's organized in conjunction with the city and the team. So, the council member would give their brief spiel. Nina Albert, the deputy mayor, would give her spiel, like basically the presentation that they gave the public or they gave the press. They're doing the same thing, running through the basics of the deal and how great it would be. And then a representative of the team is on hand to either give quick remarks or answer questions. So the first meeting that happened, the meeting in Ward 7 earlier this week, the team representative was like the director of public affairs, like someone you'd expect to be at this sort of meeting. The meeting that happened on Wednesday in Ward 5, though, Mark Klaus, the team president, was on hand. I mean, I was actually really surprised to see a team president come all the way out to Ward 5 to a meeting in a charter school that was attended by probably 50 people, of which I'd say 30 are the sorts of people you'd probably see at most meetings. But he went back and forth with people, and he was getting yelled at, he was getting criticized, but he kind of like kept his cool and talked through all this stuff. So it's kind of a joint. It's a bit of theater, to be honest.
Are any of the antis formally represented in these meetings, or do they just come to the crowd?
They're not formally represented in the sense that they don't get to like stand up, grab a mic, and speak to the audience for 10 minutes. They're outside handing out literature. They're usually asking questions. They're playing that sort of kind of subversive role in the back, which they've always somewhat played. So again, like I said, this is a bit of political theater. Like we know that the city was making its pitch. The team is making this pitch. There's a kind of sense of like, we want to hear what you think, which they do. The city officials do want to hear what people think, but what are they expecting to get from this? Are they going to be argued down? Or are they going to be convinced that this is a bad deal? Or does the team just literally want to get a sense of, okay, if you guys really want a grocery store, well, then if we'll try to commit to a grocery store. But they haven't gotten that far yet.
This episode of CityCast is sponsored by Babbel. Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today with Babbel? You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique. It quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. There are more than a dozen languages available for you to learn at your own pace, with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm David Plott, CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel and brushing up a teeny bit on my French. But there's also Turkish, Swedish, Dutch, German, many more languages. Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable and accessible. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. I particularly love Babbel's guided conversations, which let me practice real-world conversations. What to say at the doctor's office, how to leave a party, using speech recognition to make sure I'm getting the pronunciation right. Babbel's mobile app and website have real-time feedback, progress trackers, and clear visualizations. They're helping me improve my Spanish in only 10 minutes a day. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
So on the subject of RFK, Stadium was named for the father, a great American. The current RFK, Jr., perhaps less universally loved, at least in this time, put up a social media post on Mother's Day depicting him taking a dip somewhere in the waters of the Rock Creek system. What happened there?
So as you noted, RFK Jr. tweets about he takes a hike in Dumbarton Oaks Park with Amaryllis, Bobby, Kick, and Jackson. So some of his family. And then the latter half is where people get a little skeeved because it says he went on a swim with his grandchildren, Bobcat and Cassius. But there are pictures of him dunking himself and his grandchildren into the rivers of Rock Creek Park. As I think locals have known for a bit, health officials have advised against swimming in that particular DC waterway because there's sewage from the city's aging sewage system. It's really bad after it rains because even during dry spells, the bacteria count in Rock Creek Park is alarmingly high.
Martin, I saw you had put stuff up about these warnings, but then then Team Kennedy Jr. noted that actually this was wait. This was not regular Rock Creek. This was like 170 feet higher because it was Dumbarton. I'm no biologist, but does that make a difference?
There was a lot of criticism that he was swimming in Rock Creek, which again, it's all part of the Rock Creek system. So technically he was, and the same warnings apply. He was not swimming in the creek itself, which is like the central kind of the trunk. He was swimming in one of the branches, which was the Dumbarton Oaks branch, which kind of, if you don't know your geography, like if you know where Wisconsin Avenue is and kind of the Trader Joe's is up there, it starts behind that Dumbarton Oaks and it kind of flows down into Rock Creek itself. So it's not very long. There's not a lot of water flowing through it, but the city had still tested that water. I checked the report that they did. It was a couple years old, but it still had unhealthy levels of E. coli. It's advised that you do not swim. It is I will say this. They do say you can have like incidental contact with the water and you should be okay. So again, he wasn't in the worst part of the river. He was still in the river system and it's still not advisable.
Right. But he's full dunking. He's not avoiding.
That was the thing. And there was so many things to unpack. I mean, there was the completely shirtless and wearing jeans. There was the fully dunking his head into the water. And I don't think his grandkids got that deep in. I mean, I think it was just him. So again, like my first thought was like, just don't do that.
But wait, is this just, I don't mean to be uptight about this, but is this illegal? Like if the police were to find me dunking there, would they say you are breaking the law and we're going to ticket you or arrest you or something?
There is a swimming ban in DC in any waterway. It's finable. It's just not enforced. And I mean, if you think about it, there are moments that they use the Potomac for certain events, like they use it for duathlons or triathlons, those sorts of events. They have an annual, or they try to have an annual swimming event, which is like you jump in the Anacostia and get out immediately. You don't linger.
Yeah, but hasn't that been canceled multiple times because the water isn't clean enough?
They've been saying for years that it's on the cusp of being clean enough, but that's the Anacostia, not the Rock Creek.
And that's the thing. It's like you look at the water quality reports that the city produces, and it is true the Anacostia and the Potomac have gotten significantly cleaner over the years because of all the infrastructure work that DC Water is doing, creating those massive sewage runoff tunnels underground. Rock Creek, though, is the last remaining one, and the last big one of the tunnels is the Piney Branch Tunnel, which I think is being done or will be done soon, but it's not done yet. So it's like, until that gets done, wait a couple years after that, then maybe consider swimming.
Just to be clear, I'm not advocating for a ticketing or arrest of the Secretary of Health and Human Services for illegal dunking. In fact, it's not even the worst thing he's ever done in a park, because this is the same man who took the body of a dead bear he had hit and set it up to look like a bicycle accident in Central Park. So, I think if the worst he's doing now is taking a swim in water that people say is gross, that seems okay to me.
I will say, like, as a child of this area, there were times when, like, my brother and I would find the rope swing and fling ourselves into the Potomac River. I think, hopefully, I have not come out worse for wear. I think my brother has not come out worse for wear. But the children of Maryland supposedly are doing okay. Although, given our driving, maybe that's where the brainworms come in. Who's to say?
All right, and we got a fourth topic today. It's sponsored by our sponsor, Paint Care. And it's about spring cleaning. Are you spring cleaning this year, Julia?
I am, but there's only so much that I can do because I live in an apartment. I don't own my place. So when I spring clean, and I mentioned this on our May guide, you can do it in like little increments, little steps. Maybe one day it's like your medicine cabinet. Then another day it's like your clothing. But per Paint Care, if you have extra paint, apparently now's the time to use it for touch-ups or craft projects or like a quick refresh or something. Or if you're saving it, make sure to seal the lid tightly. Store it in a cool, dry place like a closet to extend the life of spoilage. Mike, you own.
I do.
Are you intending on doing any paint touch-ups with your leftover paint?
No, but I got a ton of leftover paint.
Oh my God.
It's like stacked and stacked and stacked in this one storage closet. But I'm cheap, so I don't want to like just de-accession it, because then I'll have to get it again. What if I get the wrong kind?
Ooh, yes.
And so on. I'm not a model citizen on this score because I think the idea is you're supposed to declutter this, but you can't just chuck it because it's, it probably will wind up like bathing in Rock Creek with RFK or something. So there is a right way to de-accession unwanted paint. So Julia, what does our sponsor, Paint Care, how do they help us in our overcluttered paint situations?
Here's the deal. They have convenient drop-off sites across the district, and they can recycle your paint for you. They make it safe. It's easy. Also, it's free. free paint recycling. So instead of like, I don't know, trying to loan it off on your neighbor or like trying to give it to me as a renter and maybe I do a touch up, which is probably not allowed in my apartment, go to paintcare.org/GC to find a drop off place. Basically, you can make your spring cleaning go a little bit faster. And it's a small tackleable thing, like I mentioned in the May guide, that you can do. It's a one-off, very easy. Let Paint Care do it for you.
Good to know. Well, Julia, awesome to see you.
Thanks, Mike.
Martin, let me know if you want to swap some paint, man.
I mean, I think we're going to offload this all on Julie at some point if she can get the okay from her landlord.
Anyway, before we go, let me give a quick thank you to our new members, Joan C., Mark T., and Kelsey D. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to shout out, you too should sign up to be a member at membership.citycast.fm. Members get a shout out, ad-free listening, and a whole bunch of other perks. And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Priyanka Tilve, Julia Karen, Ash Durbin, and Elizabeth Kama. Newsletter editors Kayla Cote-Stemmerman and Natalia Aldana wrote our fabulous newsletter Hey DC this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Blue Lou, Philip Ayers, Abbas Premji, and Hip Color from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, shout it instead of Geronimo when you too jump into Rock Creek. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.